we're back.
Good morning.
Monday, April 21.
Happy day after Easter.
Day after Easter.
What is the holiday in Europe and in the UK? They have a post-Easter holiday?
There's Boxing Day.
That's Christmas.
Yes. But this is...
Is this Ascension Day? Again, why did I spend all this money sending you to parochial school?
What is holiday day after Easter?
They call it Easter Monday.
Easter Monday.
Okay.
There's Boxing Day, and then there's Easter Monday. It could just be... Well, I guess Christmas doesn't fall on any day of the week.
So is this just the bonus day because Easter happens to fall on a Sunday, you get Monday off?
Why do you keep talking about it to me? I've never gotten Easter Monday off in my life, and I'm quite literally sitting right here live on Easter Monday, which is against my beliefs.
That's not very Easter-esque of you.
Yes, the Lord has risen. It was a double. I don't know what. I know there's like triple witching, but what is it when there's Greek Orthodox Easter? They go by
a whole different schedule,
a different calendar, but it did fall on the same day this year.
Okay.
So yesterday was Greek Easter and regular Christian Easter. I don't know what the not Greek Easter is named. I'll just call it Easter.
Okay.
And it was 420, which is not really funny anymore. I don't think it was probably ever funny, but it's especially not funny now that cannabis is legal everywhere. Did you celebrate any of the holidays? Also, I'm pretty sure I'm super bad at news, but I'm pretty sure the Pope has also died. So there's
passed
death,
away this morning.
There's
I guess,
rebirth,
yes.
Which is it's awful. I know that he's been sick for a while,
Right.
But yeah, a lot
He
is going on.
He was actually out yesterday, which was amazing.
Oh, really?
He went out on the balcony of the Vatican.
Nice.
And for a very brief time, gave a very brief speech.
Oh, good for him. That's
and
nice.
Rode around in his vehicle, and actually they had some pictures of him like blessing babies and stuff. So,
that's nice.
I mean, poor guy. I mean, that close, he must have not. I'm feeling great, but good on him for doing it. So.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, what did you do? How did you celebrate this weekend?
Pretty much the same thing. I rode around in my
In your Pete-mobile?
And grabbed random.
Watch out, Northsiders.
Yes, that's right. Nothing. Kids came up yesterday. We did brunch.
Okay.
Met,
Cooked brunch or went to brunch?
No, we went out. So
Country Club? Where'd you go?
No, again, I'm not a Beverlovian. I don't have.
I mean, okay.
The only difference that in Beverly country clubs go to war with one another, which I find fascinating. That you guys basically use this as a place to.
There are war times and peace times.
Yeah,
among Beverly Country Club and Ridge Country Club.
In a normal club, you'd rack a set of clubs. You guys have like spears and lances. I love that. I think that's really interesting.
So sorry. What do you call the? I don't want to name it, but what do you call the club that you belong to? Go to. It's got like pickleball.
The one that you're not going to anymore.
What? I don't understand why
we went to Michigan Shore. So
yes, there you go.
Very nice.
So you did go. That's nice.
Yeah, and because it was raining by us, and they do the petting zoo outside, so they had like.
Oh, really?
It's really. I mean, the amount of little kids there are just amazing. They had this board. I don't know if I like it or not, but. It was like a big board. It was painted Easter colors. And they had pegs in it. And by like a semi-dessert station, they had donuts. All these handmade donuts. All different colors, Easter colors, on these pegs. And
you're saying plastic donuts, not like
real.
Oh, donuts that you eat.
This is back in the outside. They had a little train that you rode, and then there were
man, this is pretty big time.
The goats and stuff where the kids could go feed the goats and everything. So they did that, which was fun. And because I took my kids 20 years ago.
Well, and yesterday you took them.
Yeah, they were less inclined to go out on the goats.
Wait, so what's it? Donuts on pegs?
So it was part of the dessert station. So it was like a 5x5 piece of probably plywood that they painted, so it looked nice. And they had these dowel rods in them, so you could put a donut on them, or a couple of donuts on them. And it was another way for you, rather than stacking donuts everywhere, it was kind of a way you could see the wall of donuts and pick the donut you wanted. The problem is these young kids are using these, and they left tongs to keep it, whatever. And these young kids are trying to grab these donuts, and I walk by this poor young guy, and he's got his sport coat on, he's looking good, and he's so frustrated because he's trying to get this donut, and every time he tries to grab it with a tongue, he's just mangling the donut. And I'm like, dude, that's why God gave you hands. Use them on Sunday. And he looked at me, and he was so happy, and he just reached up, grabbed the donut, and off he went. So,
I have to imagine there's a tough dichotomy between you don't want everybody touching all of the donuts, but it's impossible
the concept
to get
is
the
cute,
donut.
but yeah, your target demographic is not going to have an easy time using tongs. Nobody's going to have an easy time.
It's tough.
Think about reaching for a tong.
The brunch, I had a similar. We went out to brunch. Nothing as crazy as that as a wall of donuts. That sounds very nice. But
Easter Bunny was there. Got pictures with the Easter Bunny.
there was an Easter Bunny at ours as well. Didn't get pictures with him. You got pictures.
Got pictures with him.
Wow.
But you guys usually hunt an Easter Bunny, don't you? You put the guy in the costume.
Yeah, sure.
Put down the moat in Beverly. Send him out and.
Exactly
Yeah.
right. But there was one weird thing. There's like bacon, eggs, everything's nice. There's like the guy slicing up the meat.
Right.
What is the meat that's always there? Some kind of beef.
They've got usually they can have tenderloin. They have lamb. They had lamb, which was really good, and ham.
And then there was a station of sushi.
We had a little sushi station.
Really?
Yeah.
What is happening?
They had sushi and like some fresh seafood.
Pretty wild. I've not seen that. Have you seen that before?
Yeah.
A sushi station
They
at
started
brunch.
serving at like 10. We were in the last seating at 1:30. And by that point, I mean, it all looked nice, but the buffet's seen better days after 3.5 hours of the herd running through it, especially the young herd. So it was nice. Sammy brought my daughter, she's going to kill me, but she brought her new boyfriend.
Wow.
So we got to meet him. Really nice guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for
very
you
good
guys.
guy. So,
a full family affair.
yeah, he was. He's a funny guy. He's a good sport, and he was going on a business trip. He was going to Washington D.C. for a couple of days, and then next week he's got to go out to Seattle. And the only reason I tell you this is that he's telling us, and we're just getting to know him and trying to make him feel like he's not getting grilled, but getting engaged. And then Sammy just turns, and then he's taking me to Paris the following week, and the guy like mid-bite is like. And she goes, just kidding. And I'm like, wow, that's rough in front of somebody's parents.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
to
It's
go
classic
with the
Sammy.
theme. It's baptism by fire. Sometimes,
classic Sammy. So.
Well, that's great. I'm glad it all worked out.
And then
man.
we went home and played not Trivial Pursuit. We were going to do Scrabble, but everybody was far too lazy to do Scrabble, so we did Seen It.
Seen it. Is that you watch that? You do that on the TV?
You do that. It's a mixture of cards and TV, but it's all movie trivia.
Gotcha.
And they'll either play a movie clip and ask you, some small question about the movie, or who was the lead character in this movie? What was the name? The hard ones are, what was the name of the character in the movie? You'll remember the
Impossible.
movie.
And you remember the actor.
Yeah, trying to remember. One was I'm sure you never saw this. Black Rain.
Never
It's a
even
movie
heard of
made
it.
in the '80s with Michael Douglas and Andy Garcia.
Is that the sequel to Purple Rain?
No, it was certainly very different. It was a cop movie shot in Japan, but it's like, what was this guy's character name? And I'm like, God, I know the movie, which I know nobody, unless they're 50 or over, would know that movie. I'm like, I got this one locked down.
And you couldn't get the character name.
I couldn't even get close.
It's not even the first thing that comes up when you Google Black Rain. Dude,
There he is.
Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas.
Oh, and
But
Andy Garcia. Okay.
Yeah, but you needed to know Michael Douglas's character's
Well, that
name.
would be Nick Conklin, obviously.
Yes, obviously, right. That was one that just
1989.
popped into mind. It was
All
a
right.
very average
Andy Garcia.
cop movie.
He was in what? Godfather 3. I've still never
Yeah.
seen it. Everybody tells you not to see it. Well, that's cool. I kind of did the same, but I just rewatched Mission Impossible.
Again, you and the Mission Impossible. I caught so much grief from you from all these stupid action movies that you watch.
I
now you're like,
Well, I tried to. Have you seen this John Wick? We did watch John Wick at one point this weekend, and that has to be the worst movie I've ever seen, maybe in my life.
I made it through one, but I saw 4. I saw that there's a 4 now.
Yeah.
It's now plus. I can't. the whole coins thing.
It
and
was
everything.
like, dude,
Is that made by the guys who did The Matrix? Because it seems like it.
I think the people who did that movie,
Brothers, I forget the name of the brothers. Ski brothers.
No, I think that people who worked on The Matrix made this. If I'm remembering that correctly, I don't know who all is involved. All I know is, like 20 minutes into it, I was like, this has to be the dumbest movie of all time. And then it continues to get dumber, and I was just like, I went right back to the very welcoming arms of Tom Cruise, because he's a national treasure. What do you want me to say?
There's 7 of those, and it's all the exact same movie. He makes one of those rubber faces,
but they're so good. But it's so good.
Sneaks into some fancy event, and then steals something.
Isn't that part of like what we should be applauding this movie for? Is that they make the same movie over and over, but it's good every single time. Could you imagine?
For the guy who was so quick to judge James Bond or anybody else.
I haven't seen James Bond. Maybe I'll like it.
All right.
But yeah, I right back to we watched the 7th one, the most recent one.
You just watched that.
I know.
Again, rule number 2: you've never watched any movie twice, except there will be blood and boogie nights.
Great movies.
Now, anyone with a degree out in advanced psychiatry will explain to me why you would love those 2 movies. But
well, let's get into markets here, because there's plenty going on. I went to sleep last night, and
mistake number 1.
Markets were a little bit lower. I was expecting a little bit more action on the open. I didn't really see anything, and now you wake up this morning, and it's a bloodbath for U.S. dollar, U.S. equities, but gold up another chunk.
Huge.
Crypto weirdly kind of up a chunk. What's the story
Bonds
here?
getting slammed. First of all, when they did open, everything opened pretty nondescript. Friday wasn't a big mover. The dollars traded a little bit lower. Spot was open. It was the only thing open to trade, but very constrained. Sunday, the first thing you noticed was everything. Euro FX was, again, very bid offer a little bit wider.
Okay.
And very nervous. You looked at gold, you looked at SPOOs. SPOOs open up, and they're usually, 30, 40 up. They were 3 up.
Yeah.
So that told you that, I think the idea was that you're going into a period where there's not going to be a lot of liquidity, because right now, as we talked about, Europe and the UK are out of the markets right now.
Today even, yes.
Doesn't mean that all their prop traders aren't trading. Of course they are. But the sources of liquidity from banks and other places are less prevalent. And we're all moving to new highs. So gold started to take off. SPOOs started to let loose to the downside. And then you got this sale in dollars, bidding all the currencies. Different parts started. Euro started, sterling started, yen started. Aussie and Kiwi didn't, and then they kind of rolled over a little bit, and then they so you saw the crosses playing through.
Sure.
And then the overall, just the dollar selling.
Well, let's take a look here. I got the 15-minute chart up, and you can see here's the price action on Friday to Pete's point. You see barely any action in the U.S. morning on Friday, and then really nothing throughout the afternoon. And then yesterday we opened right around there. Like I say, I'm watching this on the open, and then I'm closing my laptop to bounce between basketball and Mission Impossible. And then you have a pretty just unrelenting rally throughout. Asia is in session here. You got Euro bid above 114, and then 114.5. By the time that Europe comes in, we're breaking 115.
Okay, so now we've
115.5 now.
We cleared the highs.
Yeah.
We cleared the highs in yen. We cleared the highs in the lows in dollar yen. The lows in dollar Swiss.
Here's your dollar yen getting all the way down to below 141.
Right. Gold cleared those highs at 30.60 before ripping higher. So what do we always talk about when markets traditionally become a little bit more elastic when they move to new cycle period highs, when they break out of recent ranges. So we saw all these things start to break out of recent ranges, and that's where they kind of got a little bit supercharged in terms of the direction of movement. On top of the fact that when they got to those levels, you don't have the liquidity across the entire market structure that you would expect because you've got a major time zone that we know is not going to be in an hour. I mean, a lot of times as a market maker, you'll take on a little bit more because you know there will be a chunk of liquidity coming in 2 hours. Here, everybody quoting product in Asia knows that I'm going to do the best I can.
Yeah.
And when midnight our time rolls around, I would count on that European liquidity maybe to bring things back in line a little
not
bit.
happening today.
It's not going to be there. So I'm going to have to think about everybody else who's probably stuck the same way I am.
Well, and
the race to get out.
right now, Asia's out, and the U.S. is just getting to. And here's one last thing: we do have a segment on dollar yen that I think will pair nicely with the price action we're seeing in just a second. But I did want to call out just the fact that you're right. Thanks for bringing that back up, guys. Really quick, this Kiwi move is unbelievable here. Now, of course, it's not necessarily 115 in euro dollar, getting back to 60 cents here. But to your
130
point,
pips a Kiwi's a big move.
Huge,
off of
huge
a 59-cent underlying. Think about that in terms of percentage move. There it is.
1.3% on the day, blowing through those highs, which is just, again, this is a U.S. dollar story that's developing here because U.S. equities, which tend to be highly correlated to Kiwi, Aussie, some of these currencies, are moving lower. And these risk-on commodity currencies, like your Kiwi and like your Aussie, are moving higher. I just wanted to call that out. I'm sure we'll do more on that in the future.
The big talk over the weekend was that the president was going to get rid of Jay Powell because he's not cutting rates fast enough. He came out Thursday and said, the tariffs they modeled were the tariffs they put in place were bigger
Powell
than what the Fed had modeled.
Yep.
So why didn't all this happen Thursday? The markets digested it. I think the consensus was that between the tweets and everything ratcheting up over the weekend, that an anchor of stability, whatever you think of Jay Powell, an anchor of stability and Fed independence is going to get challenged this week. And
that's some of the fear that we're seeing going into the
I
U.S.
think so. And so that's dollar fear. So what does that mean? And this is where some of that disconnect you're talking about. U.S. equities get sold. The dollar gets sold. Treasuries get sold. Bitcoin gets bought. Why does Bitcoin get bought?
Right.
Bitcoin has this incredibly strong correlation to U.S. equities. Why? If I'm looking to park stuff and I'm moving out of an area, it's become whatever you think about Bitcoin and the move. It's become its best in class in digital assets.
Well,
it's not. We're not seeing a huge move into Solana or Ether. It couldn't take it to begin with. Bitcoin is becoming best in class, like gold is. You look at gold.
Well, I was just going to say,
Silver, not so much.
Yeah.
Platinum just stands there.
Yeah. Well,
I bought platinum twice, and I was like, okay, here's the catch up in platinum, and it's like, no.
Well, in a market like this, the asset rotation can be extremely nuanced between gold trades with equities sometimes. It doesn't trade with equities sometimes.
I'm moving to another asset class. I want the best of that asset class because I'm not sure what's going on.
We'll see how it develops. Let's get on to our segment. We'll rip through what I think will be a fun one on these new lows in dollar yen as I pull it up here. Taking a look at the dollar yen price analysis is another unwind coming at 140. Pete, when I put this together over the most recent weekend, dollar yen was trading 141.5.
Right.
It's bounced around those levels a couple of times here in the last couple weeks. I thought that, maybe this is something looking forward. We might get 140 in the next week or two. Might get it in the next couple hours as this dollar continues to drop and this yen market continues to surge for a number of reasons, which we'll get to in a second. But dollar yen right now trending lower throughout 2025, down 10% on the year, Pete. And of course, this comes after, we'll get to more historical prices in a second. You remember September to December last year.
Right.
And this was on the back of the last time we were talking about a carry trade unwind, summer 2024.
Right. August, right? Yeah.
Where this dollar yen market gets down to 140, and that's about as much damage as they do. And then they rally it all the way back to above 155. I think they got to 157 and
Yep.
Well, you can see here to start 2025, we're trading 158 a couple of times. Now off 10% in the first quarter plus of this calendar year, and 140 very much. I mean, 140 at this point here on April 21st could be hit within the next couple of hours. The low that we're looking at in this market going back to summer of 2023, pretty violent move. We're going to get into a couple of reasons, but I want just your gut feel, especially the last couple of weeks, let's say since the start of April, where we've dropped from around 150 down to now close to 140. What do you think is the one reason? I know this is classic like history class. What's the reason the Civil War happened? What's the reason World War I happened? It's hard to pin it on one thing. But what is...
Are you asking that because you think I fought in both those wars?
What is the reason that this dollar-yen market is trending lower so violently?
I think it is not so much the yen is great, but the dollar's not so good.
Yeah.
And the idea that you baseline yen over the last 20 years is closer to 105 or 108. Sure. You can say the same thing about euro. It's 122, cable's 138. So I only say that in perspective that, yes, 115 is an awfully big run. 150 to 140 in the yen is an awfully big run. But keep that part of context in your mind. I think it's really this idea of a bigger thought on we're not going to hold treasuries, so we don't need dollars. And U.S. equities don't have a really good story behind them right now. If that's the case, the demand for dollars overall, because again, you need to have, wherever you are in the world, you need dollars to buy U.S. equities. You need dollars to buy U.S. treasuries. If those decisions are coming off the table, you don't need so many dollars. And when I say you, the collective, the global,
the market,
yeah. And I think does the currency run ahead of those ideas? Absolutely.
Sure. And you're seeing the indiscriminate dollar selling, but it is particularly violent in this, and it might be some of that, like you say, that price action.
And this is where the glue of math comes undone.
Yeah, because you still have a great disparity between interest rates in the U.S. and Japan. You still have 4%.
10 years are higher than this right now, right?
So still a huge gap that needs to close.
Right.
If this dollar yen is going to maybe move back to those historical prices around 100, 110, we'll see. I mean, obviously anything on the table, but you're still seeing U.S. rates for the time being at 4.5% and projected throughout this year by the Fed funds futures at the CME to maybe get down to around 3.5%. Japan, while it is the only central bank that's hiking, still only at 50 basis points. I do want to get to this piece though, because it's a little bit more relevant these days.
Yeah.
The fear that's picking up in U.S. equities.
I'm so glad you brought this up because this goes back to, sorry to interrupt.
No, go for it.
We had it was an anomalous non-correlation.
Sure.
But it lasted for a long period of time.
Around here, like mid-2024.
Right, and the previous one lasted for almost a year.
Yeah.
Where we had a negative
back in 2022,
But this is
2023.
one where, well, when's the correlation relevant? Is it relevant because it was correlated 20 years ago? I think this is a case where this long-term correlation starts coming back into play.
Yeah, and you're seeing it start to come back into play. This is some of the highest correlation we've seen really going back to the pandemic. And of course, 2012, 2013, until the pandemic, you're seeing a correlation between the yen and the VIX. So essentially U.S. equity fear and the Japanese yen bouncing between 0.25 and 0.5. Now, we haven't really been north of 0.25 since the pandemic. Right now, right there, which has been the high, like I say, since the pandemic, as S&P 500 prices trade to the lowest since January of last year. We'll see if that fear continues. We'll see if the gap continues to close between Japanese and U.S. rates. But to your point, Pete, I think part of why this is so violent in this pair in particular, we're seeing U.S. dollar indiscriminate selling, but this pair in particular is because, one, the prices are so extreme still. 140 is still the highest price if you take out everything from 2022 until now. That's still the highest price going back to the 1990s in this pair. And you've got that piece going, but you also have this fear that that gap that's closing is really going to close at some point, and the traders are going to unwind all of this carry trade that's been going on. It was the fear in the summer of last year when we got down to 140. Will we break 140 again? We will see, but for the time being, the U.S. dollar is continuing to crash, and this is probably the most fear around an unwind or a significant dollar crash back down to maybe the 130 handle, the 120 handle, what's been historically average for this pair in the last couple of years.
Absolutely. And this is exactly, if you're a momentum trader, this is setting up to give you, that kind of, the possibility of that kind of move. The markets are more elastic. We're getting into areas we haven't traded in a long period of time. If you're the contrarian, it's giving you extremes that are way outside the one standard deviation, even 30-day, let alone going back 6 months. But what it reinforces is there's nothing too rich or too cheap right now.
Sure.
Prices will go to levels that seem unreasonable. That's why we stick very tightly to our mechanics moving forward.
Absolutely. Well, that'll do it for today's segment. Thanks so much for joining us, and stay tuned for Tom, Tony, and Bonetta coming up next.
Welcome in Tasty CEO Tom Sosnoff, also founded Thinkorswim. Some call him the godfather of retail options trading. Tom, it's good to have you on. How would you be reacting as a startup founder to this news?
I'd be really pissed.
Yeah, as you should be, brother. I'm glad you said it because I can't.
And this is how we think as traders. You're much better off, instead of trying to follow the trend or follow the fundamentals,